Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my top middle round value picks for fantasy football in 2021. Inside of this video, I'm going to be talking about 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, as well as a quarterback that are going in the middle rounds of fantasy drafts right now, and discuss why I feel like they are going at an extreme value. Now, much of this video is based upon their average draft position, and as you guys know, average draft position changes so much throughout the offseason. Right now, we're in July. This is not set in stone. Players are going to be moving up and down the draft board as we get all the way to late August or early September when you guys are having your drafts. Why does ADP move? It's a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's just a hype circle that develops from a couple of tweets that you see. It'll be like the beat reporter will tweet something about how this guy is going to see an amazing season out of training camp, or you see a guy have a nice game in preseason, then bada bing, bada boom, he's flying up the draft board. And same thing happens in the negative sense, that maybe someone's quarterback gets hurt, then that player hops all the way down the draft board further down because it's going to be a lot harder for them to succeed without their quarterback. So things change drastically across the offseason when it comes to average draft position. So please make sure that if you are new, to hit that subscribe button down below, because I will be posting an updated version of this video as ADP continues to change across the offseason. I'll probably make another one of these at the end of July and then in the middle of August, so that you guys have your best shot at getting those value picks in your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. So please make sure that if you are new, you hit that subscribe button. And if you're not new, make sure you hit that like button down below. It really helps boost my video up the algorithm so that more beautiful people like yourself can see this video. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first player I want to be talking about today is a running back that I think is getting severely undervalued due to how much this team likes to run the ball, and that's running back of the San Francisco 49ers, Raheem Mostert. Now, Raheem Mostert is currently going about a round later than the rookie that they drafted in Trey Sermon out of the Ohio State University. Now, the reason why I bring this up is that is what makes Raheem Mostert the value. I think that Raheem Mostert is going to be the #1 guy getting licks on this team. He's going to be the first one up. Now, could Raheem Mostert fail and Trey Sermon completely kick the ever-living shit out of Raheem Mostert and become the running back 1 on what should be a relatively run-heavy team? 100% that could happen. But the bigger value is the player going later who should be getting the first crack at it. In 8 games last year, Raheem Mostert finished as the running back 48 in PPR, as well as in half PPR, running back 37 in standard, averaging 12.5 PPR points per game, 11.5 half PPR points per game, and 10.5 standard points per game, meaning from a points per game perspective, he finished as running back 29 in PPR, 28 in half PPR, and running back number 27 in standard. Right now, Raheem Mostert is coming off the board at pick 82.9, and it's been going down as the week has gone on, down 3.3 picks. So the general consensus about this San Francisco team seems to be that Trey Sermon is the player to draft. And I agree that Trey Sermon could have one hell of a season and easily be able to beat out Raheem Mostert. But the reason why I like Raheem Mostert, like I said, is because he's going the round later. And I believe that as the veteran, he will be given the opportunity to get the first crack at it when the season starts. Now, after the injury to Jeff Wilson, this really opened the door for Raheem Mostert to be the guy, because Jeff Wilson, honestly, and Raheem Mostert both looked really good last season. And with how much the 49ers run the ball and how effectively they're able to maniacally walk up the field by running the ball, it should be no surprise that Raheem Mostert could easily see success in 2021. The thing about the 49ers that does scare me, but you shouldn't be scared where you're drafting Raheem Mostert, but just as a backfield as a whole, they run what I will describe as the running back by orgy. Most teams, they use the running back by committee. That's like 2 guys, 3 guys. You know, they're just hanging out there. A bunch of guys are touching the ball, but what the 49ers do is the hot hand running back by orgy. And this is where you hand the ball off to Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert starts fucking up. He gets the yank, and then you give the ball to Trey Sermon. If Trey Sermon starts messing up, then they're going to put Trey Lance in at running back. And then if he messes up, they give the ball to the fullback. It's like they give the ball to everyone, and they try to make sure that they just run with whoever is looking the hottest in this game. They're just playing the game by whoever is going to do the best in that game, and then the next game it could switch, but they try to stick with the same guy, which is very nice of them to do, because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the opposite of that. Bruce Arians will get up on the press conference, he'll sit there, he'll with his weird ass, what are those hats called that he wears? I don't even know, but with that stupid looking hat, he sits there and he'll tell you right to your face that next week is Leonard Fournette's season, and it is a complete and utter lie, because then Ronald Jones will have a great game. And this year, now that Giovanni Bernard is there, it wouldn't surprise me if Giovanni Bernard has an explosive game, a couple of points in this season. So Bruce Arians is a certified liar. Kyle Shanahan, he just doesn't tell you anything, but you just assume that this guy's going to run with the hot hand approach like he did for last season. Last season, Raheem Mostert had a grand total of 104 carries. Again, this is only in 8 games, so you're not going to be expecting him to have an ungodly amount of carries, which is about 13 per game, which is pretty solid. 521 rushing yards on those 104 carries. He also had 19 targets for 16 receptions and 156 receiving yards for a grand total of 3 touchdowns. When looking at his game log, he has a couple of solid games, especially at the start of the season. Week 1 against Arizona, finishing as running back number 6. Week 2 against the Jets, running back 16. Week 5 up against the Miami Dolphins, running back number 21. And then running back 24 and 25, week 6 and week number 12. So this guy does have games where he's going to put up some solid numbers for a running back that you are drafting very late. And the reason why he has so much upside, like I was saying earlier, is how much the 49ers like to run the ball, and typically how effectively they are able to walk up the field by handing the ball off. So you're taking the gamble that Raheem Mostert is able to get the first licks at it, which he will be getting according to all of the reports I've seen, that he's going to get the first crack at it and he is going to succeed. And then Trey Sermon, who people are drafting around earlier, ends up sucking ass, and bada bing, bada boom. Now you got a running back that you can easily throw into your flex, or running back to every single week that you found relatively late in your drafts. No one is really talking about Raheem Mostert, but I think that based upon what I've been saying, that he deserves more people to be seeing the upside that he presents in this San Francisco 49ers offense. Next player I want to be talking about is a rookie wide receiver out of Alabama, the Crimson Tide, now of the Philadelphia Eagles, top 10 pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, Devonta Smith, currently coming off the board at underdog ADP 72.9. Now, I made a video about a week ago talking about rookie breakouts, and I really honed in. I put my binoculars on. I was staring directly into Devonta Smith's eyes like we were making a gaze across the room, okay? Because I wanted to focus on him, because I just said because like 6 times in a row. His value is so good here at pick 72.9, but he doesn't normally go there on Yahoo, on ESPN, in NFL. In those Yahoo mock drafts I'm doing, he's like a 10th, 11th round pick, and that's because a lot of people saw what happened in Philadelphia last year at the wide receiver core, and they are so scared. They saw that they drafted Jalen Reagor in the first round. Jalen Reagor was terrible. They drafted J.J. Arcega-Whiteside instead of drafting DK Metcalf. He's terrible. Now they draft Devonta Smith, and people are a little bit nervous. But what you have to understand is that Devonta Smith landed, in my opinion, in the best spot for fantasy success year 1. Devonta Smith has no one around him. Jalen Reagor, you think he's going to vulture any type of receiving value from Devonta Smith? The answer is no. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside? No. None of the guys around Devonta Smith have the build of an alpha wide receiver as the wide receiver 1 in targets on their team as Devonta Smith. Jamar Chase gets drafted to the Bengals. And you want to know who's there? Titty boy T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. Miami drafts Jaylen Waddle earlier than Devonta Smith. You want to know who's around Jaylen Waddle? They've got Preston Williams, obviously not a big name, but they have Devontae Parker, they have Will Fuller, they have Mike Gesicki. So these guys are in loaded offenses. The only other better target on this team right now for Philadelphia is probably Dallas Goedert. And one of the reasons why I like Dallas Goedert so much is because the other wide receivers besides Devonta Smith are fucking awful on this team. Does that mean that I think Jalen Reagor is just going to be terrible? No, probably not. Jalen Reagor will probably have an all right year, but not as good of a year as Devonta Smith. Finding the wide receiver 1 in targets on a team typically doesn't come at pick 72.9, especially one that could be a true alpha wide receiver, a true tried and true number 1 on a team. I understand that there are some worries with Jalen Hurts. I'm not the biggest fan of Jalen Hurts either. I would not even go out there and claim Jalen Hurts to finish as a top 5 fantasy quarterback, which could easily happen because of his rushing upside, but I am a bit worried about his arm. But at the end of the day, when you're at pick 72.9 and you're able to take what should be the number 1 wide receiver on the team, The guy that just won the fucking Heisman. Now, the Heisman doesn't matter, obviously, right? At the end of the day, Johnny Manziel wins the Heisman. You see how he plays in the NFL. My boy Tim Tebow, now playing tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars. His quarterback career didn't work out too well. So now you got Devonta Smith. But other Heismans have obviously been very good in the NFL. But I think that Devonta Smith has what it takes to be the number one guy in this Eagles offense in terms of receptions. Last year at Alabama in his Heisman winning season, 22 years old, 12 games played, 117 receptions on 147 targets. 1,856 receiving yards, 15.9 yards per reception. This guy had a 34.6% target share in the Nick Saban-led Mac Jones Alabama offense. That means 1/3 of the time that Mystic Mac Jones threw the ball out of his hand, you want to know who it went to? Devonta Smith. Over 1/3 of the time. Do you know how crazy that is? That's such a crazy number. In 2019, 21 years old, 13 games, 68 receptions, went off of being very nice with 69, 86 targets, 1,256 receiving yards, 18.5 yards per carry, or yards per reception, I should say, 21.2% target share in that offense, 14 touchdowns. He scored 23 touchdowns in 2020. I understand that people will point the finger at this guy's figure, at his build. He is not built like an NFL wide receiver. He's built differently, and he's not built differently like how DK Metcalf looks like the fucking Hulk with his shirt off, how it looks like he could grab someone, pick them up, and break their skull with his hand like in Game of Thrones type of deal here. That's not what Devonta Smith is, but he is clearly the best wide receiver on this Eagles offense. And I think that the Eagles defense won't be that good, so they're going to have to throw the ball late, and that should bode quite well for Mr. Devonta Smith. I know not everyone is as hyped about Devonta Smith as me, but I'm very excited for what should be an excellent rookie year in 2021 as what could be the number one rookie wide receiver in fantasy football for 2021. We are about 11-ish minutes into this video, so if you guys have ended up enjoying thus far, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below, because not only is it free, I put out content every single day to try to help you guys win your 2021 fantasy football championship, but no more free ads for myself. Back to the video. So the next guy I want to be talking about is a quarterback, and this is one of my favorite middle round-ish quarterbacks. Now, he's not necessarily middle round, because you can say maybe he's later round, but I still wanted to talk about him, and that's Matthew Stafford, quarterback now of the LA Rams, underdog ADP 105, minus 1.53 in the last couple of weeks. Now, I understand that a big there's no uproar against Matthew Stafford, but a big talking point about Matthew Stafford as to why you might not want to draft him is his upside. It's harder nowadays for a quarterback like Matthew Stafford, who has a great arm but can't really run the ball, right? You're not seeing Matthew Stafford fucking juke a guy out, stiff arm him like Derrick Henry, and walk into the end zone like Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson. You don't see that out of Matthew Stafford. But what you will be seeing is a quarterback in a high-octane offense that just has a chip on his shoulder. The Detroit Lions took Matthew Stafford's career and did one of those things, I don't even know, a swirly maybe it's called, where you see that in those like old high school movies where they take a kid and the bully just shoves them into the fucking toilet and they're like, flushing the toilet and the water's going everywhere. That's basically what the Detroit Lions organization did to Matthew Stafford. They permanently pants this guy, and he's such a good quarterback, and now people will finally see it, because on LA, for the Rams, the lights will shine much brighter. The only time you see Detroit on the regular television is on Thanksgiving. So Stafford goes from being injected into this terrible offense to being in what should be a high-octane Sean McVay offense. Jared Goff, who's a shell of what he was a couple of years ago, succeeded in that offense. He looks good. Now imagine a actually good quarterback in that system. In 16 games, Matty Snapback finished as quarterback 16 and 4 point per passing touchdown leagues, and quarterback 15 in 6 point last season, playing in all 16 games. From a points per game perspective, Matthew Stafford was quarterback 23 in 4 point and quarterback 21 in 6 point, averaging 16.3 4 point per passing touchdown points per game and 19.5 6 point per passing touchdown points per game. And those numbers are low for Matthew Stafford. You want to know why they were low? It was because Marvin Jones played the whole season, I believe, but Kenny Golladay was out the whole fucking season, and Kenny Golladay is the clear wide receiver one on that team. Without Kenny Golladay, that team is going to look bleak. Without Marvin Jones now there, he went to Jacksonville. It is going to look bleak for Jared Goff, but it's okay now for Matthew Stafford because he moved away from there. He's now in LA with Robert Woods, with Cooper Kupp, with Cam Akers, with Tyler Higbee, with Deshaun Jackson, with all of these games. Now, I don't even know why I included Deshaun Jackson there. It was just a little spice to add on to what is a beautiful offense in LA. The offensive line is not the greatest, but it's not like Matthew Stafford has ever had a great offensive line, so who even gives a fuck? This guy's slinging the rock even behind bad offensive lines. Now, I understand that his stats in 2020 weren't super compelling, but if you look at his 2019 stats, this guy was unreal. He only played in 8 games in 2019, and this guy threw the ball for 2,499 passing yards. Times that by 2, right? He plays 16 games, which is what a season was back then. Now it's 17 games. That would have been almost 5,000 yards. Almost 5,000 yards. You know how crazy that is? 5,000 yards. If he did that, you would have seen people getting down on their knees to suck Matthew Stafford dry. Okay? They would have loved Matthew Stafford, but he didn't do it because he got hurt. But in 2020, after people were talking about how, now maybe Matthew Stafford's injury prone, he plays all 16 games. Now he's in LA. I don't know what else to say about Stafford besides the fact that he's going to LA. He had not the best luck last year with the Detroit Lions, but he's changing teams with a genius head coach, and he's super safe, and his upside is huge, especially if this offense is humming as much as I believe it will be with Cooper Kupp, with Robert Woods, with Cam Akers. The only negative to Matthew Stafford in LA is there's no way he's getting any garbage time points in a majority of games because they're not going to have to throw the ball super late into the game. Now, they do play in a hard division, but the fact that they have such a great defense is somewhat worrisome because there are going to be games where the LA Rams literally walk down the field just bending defenses over like their name was Danny Daniels, and then bada bing, bada boom, the game's over. And Matthew Stafford doesn't throw like 4 touchdowns, right? You're not expecting him to do that in a majority of games, but he just throws like a touchdown, gets like 300 yards, and then, he doesn't play the greatest. But that'll only be in some games. In a majority of games, the LA Rams will be fighting hard to win the game with a strong defense, and I believe that Matthew Stafford is going to finally show these things that I've seen out of Matthew Stafford for years. He's been one of my biggest targets in fantasy football for the last 6 seasons, and now finally everyone will be able to appreciate the football passing god. The people call this guy a gunslinger because he really is, but I mean, the people, like me, basically, I'm the only one talking about Matthew Stafford. No one talks about Matthew Stafford, and he is on such a good team. Again, there's not too much for me to say because his numbers last season were not that good, but if you flip on the film, Matthew Stafford is that guy. Trust me, you're not that guy, but Matthew Stafford is that guy. Next up, we got wide receiver of Team TikTok, Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver Chase Claypool, underdog ADP 65.3. Now, when it comes to Chase Claypool, you might instantly be thinking right now, Nick, you love Deontay Johnson. Why do you like Chase Claypool as well? It's because I genuinely believe that this team is still going to have to throw the ball a million times. Their offensive line has been dismantled. Their offensive line is terrible. Chase Claypool played pretty good in his rookie season, and now he's going to continue to elevate it going into his sophomore year. In 16 games, Chase Claypool finishes wide receiver 22 in PPR, 19.5 PPR, and 14 in standard, averaging 13.4 PPR points per game, 11.5 half PPR points per game, and 9.6 standard points per game. Meaning, from points per game perspective, he finishes wide receiver 34 in PPR, 29.5 PPR, and wide receiver number 21 in standard. 6'4", 238 pounds for Mr. Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool in the end zone last year was gobbling up targets. This motherfucker had 11 total touchdowns last season. 11 total touchdowns. He had 109 targets, which ranked 24th at the wide receiver position. He had 62 receptions, 35th at wide receiver, 859 receiving yards. So he has a lot of targets, has a decently high amount of receptions, has a lot of total touchdowns, but didn't hit the 1,000-yard mark. Now imagine Sure, it's hard to project touchdowns in the NFL, and I could easily see that Claypool goes down to like 8 touchdowns, but his receiving yards will go up. He's still going to continue to get targeted at a high rate because of how this Steelers offense works. It is super hard to run the ball very effectively when your offensive line sucks dog shit. They're so bad. I don't even know how I would describe how bad it is, okay? They're basically useless. It's a used condom of an offense, okay? Of an offensive line. But Najee Harris can still be good in this scenario because they dump the ball off to him, or because Najee Harris is talented enough for the fact that maybe the offensive line sucks, but he's still a good enough running back that he's able to overcome a bad offensive line. We've seen that happen in the past. Not every team has a great offensive line, and they could still have a successful running back, and they could still have a successful running game, so they could still be able to run the ball, but they're still going to have to be passing because of how bad the offensive line is, and with how little I believe in Juju Smith-Schuster, and with how much I believe in Claypool and Deontay Johnson, I think that both of those guys have a scenario that at the end of the season, you see them as a top 12 wide receiver. The hardest thing to find in drafts is volume. You're always hunting volume in fantasy football, and Chase Claypool could see an even higher uptick in volume, and he's going to see much more success going from a rookie to a sophomore season. I throw a lot of excuses at these rookie wide receivers who didn't necessarily have an amazing year, right? He played fucking great. He finished as a top 20 wide receiver in half PPR and standard, 22 in PPR, so he did have a good season, but he didn't have the excellent season, but he still scored all those touchdowns, and that was in a COVID offseason. When you have this guy practicing fully, hopefully he takes his TikTok fucking dance in his Corvette like Juju, throws that out the window, and becomes the NFL wide receiver that I believe Chase Claypool will be. He is a guy that I am chasing because of volume and because I believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to have to be forced to throw the ball, and he only had a 65.9% route participation in 2021. Or 2020, I should say. That's 90th at wide receiver. He only had a 65.9% route participation, and he still had that many targets. What happens when he's out there more? What's going to happen? You know what's going to happen? He is going to be a target monster. He also had a 15.7% target share in the red zone, which would bode very well for him potentially scoring a shit ton of touchdowns. Again, I like Chase Claypool a lot. Let me know down below if you guys are against any of these draft picks, because I'd love to talk about it in the comment section if I haven't kind of bolstered it into your brain yet what I was thinking. If you disagree, it's fine, to be honest with you. Just so you guys know, if you ever disagree with anything that I say, I'm not going to hold it against you. I'm not going to be like, oh, this guy's a fucking idiot, or this girl is an idiot, right? Because that's not how it works. Fantasy football is different to everyone. Everyone has different thoughts, and that's what makes it so fun to talk about. So final player in this video is probably the safest. No, not the safest, right? Because obviously I think Matthew Stafford's very safe. I think Claypool's very safe. Damian Harris is the definition of safety. This guy is like wearing a condom and the girl's on plan B, or she's got an IUD in too. That's like you're running fucking ultra safety here. Damien Harris, New England Patriots running back, current underdog ADP 86.0. Damien Harris, the lead running back in New England, going at pick 86. It seems as though Sony Michel's days are numbered as a starting running back in the NFL, or even as a running back on the Patriots. Seems like they're fine with just getting rid of him or just letting him sit on the fucking bench. The only other running back behind Damien Harris that should be getting a lot of work will be James White, but that's because of his pass-catching prowess. But that is something I want to talk about with Damien Harris, because I believe that he is significantly underrated in terms of his hands and ability to catch passes, because he hasn't done it at the NFL level yet. In 10 games, Damien Harris finished as running back 53 in PPR, 50 in half PPR, and running back 44 in standard, averaging 9.1 PPR points per game, 8.9 half PPR points per game, and 8.6 standard points per game. Meaning, from a points per game perspective, he was running back 39, tied with Wayne Gallman, Latavius Murray, and Jamal Williams, and running back 36 in half PPR and 33 in standard. But now I believe he is in the driver's seat. There is no question about who the running back one is on this team this season. There might have been some questions last year. People liked Sony Michel, but this year it is undeniable that Damien Harris is that guy. Last year, Damian Harris had 137 carries, 691 rushing yards, and 2 total touchdowns, with only 7 targets, 5 receptions, and 52 receiving yards. He only played 1 game in his rookie year in 2019 and did not do all that well, but he obviously was not playing. Now, he is going to be playing a whole lot on a New England team that is a big upgrade from the 2020 roster that they rolled out. The defense last year, they all opted out. A couple of the guys just decided they didn't want to play football, which is okay. They were scared of the Rona, and that's respectable. But now everyone's back. They're bringing in all these free agents. Bill Belichick is spending money like fucking Jordan Belfort on a bunch of whores on a Saturday evening. That's basically what is happening. Damian Harris is going to be on a team with a actually good roster this year, with a good defense. And a good defense leads to running, leads to giving the ball to Damien Harris, who will be the lead running back. But Nick, Cam Newton's there. I know Cam Newton is there. I'm not a Cam Newton person. I think Cam Newton is going to lose the job to Mystic Mac Jones. Now, when it comes to the receiving work, look at his numbers in college. 22 receptions on 23 targets, 204 receiving yards. 12 targets his junior season, or 14 targets, 12 receptions in his junior season. So he's a guy that can catch the ball. He just needs to be given the opportunity, which I believe could arise this season. Overall, my feeling on Damien Harris is just that he's a super safe pick late, with a lot of upside being the number 1 running back on what should be a much better Patriots team in 2021. So thank you guys all so much for watching. I hope you guys did end up having a great time watching this video. Happy Tuesday. Tomorrow's hump day. I hope you guys ended up enjoying. I love you guys all. Make sure you stay safe. Happy Tuesday, baby. Good boy.